move on to our third speaker. That is Codey Gerarden in prototype and design, and his company is Gerarden Fabrication and Design. So Codey.
Thank you. Good morning. I went back to school at the same time that I started our family company in our garage. The goal from the start was, obviously we want to be self-sufficient as a small business, a small family business. The career path was always to eventually be self-employed and to create jobs. And we knew that in order to do that, we had to learn a lot of trade skills as quickly as possible. The only way that we could do that was through the prototype and design program. That was the only program that fit the criteria that we were looking for. So it's a 2-year commitment. I feel like it flew by in a matter of months. The company that we have would not be where it is today if we didn't do that. And my only regret is not doing that sooner. So as far as a career path goes, we also had to plan accordingly. We have a family, just in case these things don't go as planned, we needed to be able to rely on a degree for, a career that we can see ourselves doing for a long period of time. My wife also went back to school at the same time. So when we decided to go to that program, the 2-year commitment, strategically, it allowed us to dial back on the work schedule, focus on building the company while pursuing a degree that would also, give us a career path if the business didn't work. Fortunately for us, it did. So, currently, and we're about 3-4 years in, we've got a staff of 7, 3 of which are prototype and design graduates, and one of which, as of last Wednesday, now owns a 1% stake in our company. So that's just kind of the natural growth trajectory that we've been able to achieve with the help of NWTC and prototype and design. So whereas in the garage, it was all myself and maybe a couple of buddies, we now have a team. My day-to-day consists of all the design work. We have SolidWorks. We use SolidWorks to design all of our furniture. And we do have a couple of slides to show you, to share with you what we do at our shop. And as you see these slides, bear in mind, all of this was trained at the college level in the 2-year program, prototype and design. So every skill that goes into producing a piece of furniture like this can be learned at a trade school. So now we have a team. My job is no longer producing the furniture, but rather managing the team that's producing the furniture. And we're trying to transition the company in a way where we're able to manage a person who manages the team, who manages the production of the furniture. And that's just kind of the trajectory that we're on. We take anywhere from 80 to 200 phone calls a day. We're shipping nationally, globally. And as far as production, I'm now only involved in the development phase, the design process, and producing the first prototype. So being a custom shop, I would say 90% of what we do is 100% from scratch custom, but we do have certain lines that we're launching. And for that, we will use the skills that we learned in those programs to develop the prototypes. And while we're doing that, what we're able to do is tweak the design, make design changes as needed, while also developing fixturing and ways to make the furniture highly repeatable so that we can take someone that might not have as much experience or skill, put them at a fabrication station, and they can produce essentially replicas or different variations of this furniture. So that's the day-to-day in our lives right now. The 3 that we have, the 3 employees that we have that graduated, each have their own kind of department. Brandon Joubert has been with us a little over a year. He has complete ownership and authority of the metal fabrication shop. Kim Engelbert starts on November 1st, and she'll be heading up the wood department, wood finishing, just processing of wood product. And we've also hired Nate Samorski, and he's kind of the apprentice fabricator, really developing into that role. So as far as advice that I could give to specifically anyone that might be interested in starting a company, but more generally to anyone that plans to operate at a very high level, the first thing that I would tell you is that you have to kind of pick a path that you can see yourself doing long term. There are not a lot of people that are kind of staying the course and staying with a career path for a lifetime anymore. But those that do, it's kind of easy to rise to the top. So you've got to do something that you love. You got to love what you're doing. That was critically important to us, and we do. Everyone here loves this work, so that's very important. Second, you cannot be afraid to fully immerse yourself in your trade. So you have to pick a trade that suits you and perfect your craft. You have to treat this like it is a long-term, lifelong venture and perfect your craft. You have to relentlessly pursue a mastery and perfection of your craft, whatever that may be. And I think one of the easiest ways to take steps toward that goal is education. And the sooner you do that, the better you're going to be. You're not going to enter your prime earning years until maybe you're in your 30s. So don't be afraid of a 2 or 4 year commitment to dedicate to education. It's critically important. And again, just to repeat, none of us would be where we are today if we didn't take that next step. So as far as pursuing your goals, there's only one way to do that. And that's with a certain level of intensity. And you, like I said, you've got to be relentless. Don't be afraid to, dive in head first 100%. Go ahead.
What were you doing before you thought I should start my own custom furniture business?
Yeah, so the 10 years that led up to that point were critical. They were critically important for me. It has been a lifelong goal to be self-employed. And, leading up to that point, I went to school, I went to NWTC for welding. I was a licensed fabricator and welder. And the whole time I'm paying attention. And that's just another bit of advice for anyone who might be interested in going off on their own. You've got to pay attention to the people that are already doing what you would tend to do. Pay close attention and take mental notes. So that's kind of what I did for 10 years. I took, my career path very seriously, to the point where I kind of wrote a list of, things that I do in a day and everything that I do in a week. And I started to cross things off of that list. If there was an item on that list that did not get me closer to achieving my ultimate goal, it had to come off of the list. And you just have to have a certain level of discipline and consistency to get to that next level. And part of that is, there were certain habits that I had to go away. There were even people dear to me that just weren't conducive to achieving my goals, and I had to have the discipline to understand and acknowledge that. So before I went to school, I was a fabricator. I was in management positions at other companies at the corporate level. And the whole time, the ultimate end goal was launch a company, a viable, long-term, sustainable company. And we've achieved that. So, when I started the program NWTC Prototype and Design, the company was in a very infant state. It was conceptual. It was in my garage. And I would sit in the garage with friends and relatives, and I would talk about what I intend to do out here. And, understandably, they would chuckle. They would chuckle. I mean, those are some lofty goals, and I understand that. But if you're relentless, if you are consistent, and if you have the discipline, and you can dissect your own goals into manageable steps that you can take, actionable steps that you can take to achieve, you can do it. And so out of the garage, we get into a 2,000 square foot manufacturing facility. And a year later, we blow a wall out. Now we're 4,000 square feet. And just last July, actually this July, we did it again. We took over the rest of the building, 8,000 square feet, a staff of 7, 3 college graduates. And they're really not chuckling anymore. So that's the ultimate advice for anyone that not only wants to get into self-employment or a venture, but if you already have a goal, if you already have a craft in mind and you have a passion for something, be relentless. Um, you have to take your own seat at the table, and you can do it. You just have to look at it as actionable goals, and that's all you have to do. And you can do it whatever it might be.
That is awesome advice for becoming an entrepreneur. Allison, any questions that students or you have?
There are currently no questions in the chat, but Codey, I wish I had your discipline. That's very commendable. I am curious how you chose the furniture component to what you do.
Yeah, so I've just always had a passion for furniture and really art. I think furniture is a functional and most importantly lucrative and sellable form of art. So, you know, I've been an artist my entire life, but I have the sense to understand that it's just not very likely to get to where I decided that I need to be just by being a freelance artist. To scale a company and to grow rapidly and aggressively, a company that can sustain other jobs, feed multiple households, and eventually be handed down to my children, where I can develop and mentor, my children into the point where they can take this over. I think furniture was just a natural fit. And I produced my first piece of furniture as a student in the prototype design program. It came from a sketch with a Sharpie, a piece of notebook paper, and translated that using SolidWorks. Once we sold that first piece, we were also able to kind of strategically market just this one piece of furniture that has since been shipped to every state in the United States and about a dozen other countries.